All right, all right. Hello and welcome. Here we are again at Gratitude Speaks, where we care and we share with others our personal experience with communal living and recovery housing. I'm pleased today to have a former alumni with us, Taylor. And in today's interview, it's going to be a special one for me because I don't know Taylor personally. And so this will be a fun interview where we get to know Taylor a little bit better together. It's always exciting for us to go back, interview our, success stories. That's really what, personally, that's what I live for. On somebody's recovery journey, you cannot force somebody to recover, right? So no matter how great the facilities that we offer to people, no matter how great, the access to resources, truly individual's journey is their own. And recovery is something where you cannot force someone. So with that, I'd like to welcome Taylor to the show. It's great to have you on here. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Martin. Thank you so much for asking me to be on. It's truly a pleasure. The one thing I've really focused on outside of my recovery is the how great it is to be able to help someone else. So even if I can just touch one person, something I say, some information I have, letting somebody know that it's going to be okay. It is absolutely worth taking the time to go over some things from my past, share my story, and share how I've made it through to the other side. So I'm honored to be on here, and thank you so much for taking the time to do that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're meeting up in different time zones, which is
Yes.
a first for Gratitude Speaks here. I actually started out on Google Meets for the first few episodes and started trying to do them in person. And for
Oh,
me,
wow.
this is actually a lot more comfortable. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that we got to. So you're down in Texas.
I am. I'm in the panhandle of Texas. I was telling you before, we finally got some sun, but here, just like the East, we see snow, we see rain, heavy winds, and we see 100-degree heat. So it's really just what kind of day it feels like. But it's a beautiful day here, and I love Texas, man, and I love the fact that you're so far away. You're on the East Coast, and we still get to bring that connection of recovery together without having to be face to face. So it's great that we get to do this over the phone.
Absolutely. So tell us how you ended up at Gratitude Foundation. Maybe start with a little bit of your story and tell us how you ended up with Gratitude.
So I was going through, I was coming out of college, I was getting into the workforce, and I couldn't find steady ground, so I was back and forth going out drinking, just doing the normal things that you think is appropriate when you get out of school and you don't really have goals set. You're just kind of winging it. So I was going back and forth and living wild, living fast, and just not doing the right things. And it's when you're young, you think, hey, I can outrun it, or I can keep up with it, or I know what I'm doing, right? Those are all many things that I said numerous times, but it caught up to me, and it caught up to me quick. Um, I was sent off to a recovery center in Atlanta. And like you were saying earlier, it can be it was beautiful, queen size plush beds with big comforters, cafeteria, therapist, massage, whatever. It was state of the art. Um, but all that doesn't matter, because until your heart's truly in it, you could be anywhere. That was an extremely nice facility, and that's I didn't take it serious. I just went in, and they take you through the classes, and you have a schedule, and they try to get you on a routine, and they try to get you some programming, and that's what it's all about, right? It's being reprogrammed back into being a you know worth value, progressive human that can benefit society and help other people. And I fought it for so many years. It was, oh, I know what I'm doing, or okay, I'm done. It was always just to rush to get through treatment. And so my time expired there, and they were very, very helpful with coordinating um, the next step of treatment. So that was like my detox and my recovery phase, but that truly wasn't my detox because they kept me on a medication to get me through. I was on the Suboxone to get me through. So it was truly just a band-aid. And I know some people stand on either side of the fence with that, but I truly believe you're just with the Suboxone and methadone, Subutex, you're just patching up the bruise. You're not truly getting to the root of the problem. Um, so I was on that, and I was on that
Can
until
we
I
can we
was,
pause? Can we
yeah,
pause for a second on that? Because I think that
yeah.
is a really important point. And maybe more so even now. What year was that? How long ago was that, if I can ask?
Oh, that was, I'd have to say, probably 2018,
Yeah, yeah, and I think that
2017.
yeah, and I think the more that time goes by, the more that these conversations are really important, especially somebody, because I only ever abused Suboxone. To me, that was just another street drug. I
Right,
had no idea it was even for, because when I was using it, I never made it into like a real treatment center. So for me, that was
right.
just another drug. But people that have personal experience like you, it is really important to talk about what that meant for you, and my views on harm reduction and the medical use of something like Suboxone have actually changed a great deal.
Definitely.
And not to say that I'm crazy about the idea, but I certainly am not against it like I used to be, because
Sure.
especially like how deadly what's out there is now, that it really can make such a difference to stabilize an individual, to get somebody in, to have them hear something, even if they're going to relapse again, to have them stabilized. And some people, can go on and off of Suboxone in a fairly short period of time, and some people they're on it for years.
Yep.
But thank you for actually saying it out, saying it specifically. I was on Suboxone, because
Yeah.
your personal experience is really important to share like that.
Yeah. And a lot of times sorry, I cut you off.
The good
Um,
and the bad of it. That's all I was saying.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. I bouncing in and out. I worked this system, right? I went to a doctor and I got the 3 a day, and only took a half or didn't take any, and I still got high. So I worked that system and I abused that system, right? And I think, on a medical level, it can be extremely helpful, right? Someone goes in, they're trying to do better, they're in the hospital. Well, I mean, those are some of the worst times I've ever had, was being sick in a hospital bed, right? They're trying to stick an IV in you, or so for stabilization, I think it can be great, but I also think it's extremely easy to be abused. I think, like a 3 a day kind of routine is way too much, because I know at my addiction prime, I was really deep, and a half of a pill would take care of me for the day. So I think that it's great for stabilization, but I think it's also extremely abused, and I think people fall back on it as more of a um, get me by till my next. But again, just like everything, it's all about your intentions. So, do I go into this with the intention of, I'm going to use this medication to truly better my life? Or am I going to use this medication to get me through till Friday when I get paid so I can get high again? It's all about the intention behind the medication.
Well said. Yeah. Continue on, please.
Yeah. So, I was sent off on a bus to Gaithersburg, and
So where were you
this
from? Where were you from at that time?
so I was actually in Pittsburgh. That's where I'm from,
So
Pittsburgh,
you were in
Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh. They send you down
Hmm.
south, and then
Yeah,
they send you back up to Gaithersburg.
yeah.
Okay.
So they had to do the whole, and I had great insurance, and they had to do the whole insurance deal, and so they found the next level of treatment, right? So for a couple years, I had been using, and I was selling and using, and just not living a good life. But I had never, I knew what a rehab was, I knew what a detox was, but I didn't know, and how depth and how deep the concept was. I didn't know there was a detox, and then there was a a short-term housing, and then there was a long-term housing, and then there was, a year rehabilitate. Like I didn't know any of that. In my mind, I thought it was, hey, you go here for 30 days, you clean up, and then you're back to your life, right? So then when my, family and everyone was like, well, you're not done, you're going to a halfway house or the next step. So I went over to Gaithersburg, and I went to this again. It was a very nice program. We went to the office for class during the day, and then there was a men's house, and it was an old it was a mansion, and it had probably 8 to 10 rooms, and it had a living area, and it was real structured. We went to the grocery stores on Sundays, and we got a specific amount. Again, they were taking steps to try to introduce us back into being a normal person, right? Being a human.
How did you feel at that time?
I
Did you
was
feel like you were just going through the motions?
definitely felt, I think for probably a year, at the same time, see, that's when I didn't have this medication. So the place I went to in Gaithersburg, there was no Suboxone, there was no taper, there was no Subutex. It was, hey, I think it was gabapentin, or we'll give you some ibuprofen 800. So there, and as painful as I may have thought it was now, it was probably great. It was great that I went through that and I endured that. And I had, when you're coming out of that, your feelings and your emotions, you don't have any, right? You're numb. Um, you don't really laugh. You don't know how to act, right? I remember for probably
Great way to put it.
2 years, I couldn't even look myself in the eye. I couldn't go to the mirror, and even when I talked to someone, and I didn't process it, right? I wouldn't meet you and say, hey, Martin, and like look down. I would just naturally look down because internally I was so embarrassed and ashamed of myself, that my body just was programmed to look down and not want to look up, and my shoulders hunched over. I was just broken, right? So it was all, it was a lot. You got all these people telling you what to do, right? I'm 25, 26, and no one can tell me what to do kind of guy, living by myself, doing whatever I wanted. And then you come into this world, you're broken. Um, you're not in charge. You got people telling you you need to surrender. You're powerless. And so every time you hear that, you're like, yeah, I'm not powerless, right? And you fight it so much at first, and while all this was going on, I was getting into the depths of my withdrawals. And I was not sleeping, and the leg pains and throwing up. And I remembered, this is the house that I met Petros at, and that's he really took me under his wing, and he did a lot for me, and I don't think I would be here today if it wasn't for that man. So I'm super grateful for everything that he did for me. But there was a couple people in the house, one specifically that he had been a regular, and he had been in and out of the house for probably 2 years, I believe. And he when I got there, he was about 90 days ahead of me, and he was a real bad opiate user from there. And he was just in a very dark place, and I wouldn't be able to sleep. So I would get up at like 4 in the morning, and he would be in the kitchen drinking coffee. And I would say, hey Joe, why are you awake? And he'd be like, Taylor, I haven't slept in 4 months. Like I'm withdrawing really bad. And so, I'm a week into it, and I'm like, man, I'm going through this. And this kid's telling me he's 4 months in and he's still going through it. Like, I'm never gonna make it, right? So, at the sorry, at the beginning, I mean not at the beginning, but I mean for a long time, your mind takes over and it starts to say, sorry, let me fix the camera.
You're
It
good.
starts to say things like, okay, how can I get out of here? Where can I go? Right? You start thinking of ideas. Okay, how can I get high? What can I do to get out of here? Right? And
I
you start.
believe I believe in a way like the addiction works in our subconscious,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's exactly what you're describing. It's like it's saying if if Taylor gets too far away and gets too far into this thing, I might never get him back, right? So this is too hard. You're gonna lose anyway. You might as well lose right now. At least that's the way that it would talk to me, right? Like
Let me bring
that's
him
such
back in.
yeah,
Yep, I completely agree. And it's you see stuff along recovery and just like, man, I'm never gonna make it. I got to get out of here, and that's now with where I'm at and my faith, and I went through, got extremely close to God recently. I like you said, the addiction's talking to you. I believe it's the devil. It's the devil reaching out and trying to um, pull you back in because he sees, hey, and this is kind of off, but there's all motivational speakers will talk, and one of them specifically says, hey, you know, um, drug addicts are the best people to work for because they focused so hard on addiction and getting high. If you can get them to turn that energy and turn that focus into whatever it is, right? Worshiping the Lord or your job or your family, those people are so loyal and they're so committed and they're hard workers. If you can turn that energy around and good, they're amazing people. It's just people have a hard time getting over that and giving them that chance.
yeah, absolutely. So I guess tell us about your turning point. So Petros was there. You were getting some good ideas fed to you. You had a chance to get stabilized, but you were getting pulled in the other direction. What happened?
So it was good. It was actually probably I'd say around August, September was when I went in, and for probably 2 months I didn't get to be in, like, Sundays would be football day. I didn't participate in that because I couldn't, right? The guys would play the Xbox. I mean, I couldn't sit down, I couldn't make it through, I couldn't eat. We'd go to the grocery store Sundays. I would just give off my Aldi card because I had no appetite, no desire to eat. I was defeated, and and looking back, they say, um, sick and tired of being sick and tired. And sadly enough, at that point, when I thought I was at my lowest, I wasn't, because I still, once I got out of there, I kept going, I kept going back and it sucked me back in. But um, I I fought a lot while I was in there to not do what they were, I didn't participate. I didn't want to hear what they had to say. I thought it was all bullshit. The corny lines, it works if you work it. And I thought that was all just crap. And you're sitting in a room next to, um, you know, 50, 60, 70-year-old men and women. And you're like, man, what do they know? Right. And meanwhile, they've been through more in probably 10 years than I've been through my whole life. But you don't, there's so much going on in your head, and it's like you're not even in your mind. There's so much that you neglect, and that you just think you're better than, until you get humbled. You have to internally get humbled and accept that, hey, I got beat. And then you either have two options: you keep getting beat, or you get back up. And it took me a long time. I Because I was so far away from home. When you're in rehab and somebody lives in that town, I mean, we had people that would sneak out the window, and people would pick them up, or people would bring drugs. And there's ways around it, but because I was so far away from home, I didn't know anybody. There was nothing I could do, right? So I stayed through it, and I did the best I could. And I remember we were going through. I hadn't slept in about, I want to say 3 months. I say 2 months. And I was in the top corner room, and there was two beds in my room, and I got to push them together. But I was thinking about how nasty it was. Like I had sheets on my bed when I first got there, but you roll and you toss, and you're just so like you want to get out of your skin. By the second day, my sheets were just off, and you just don't care to fix them. You're just in such a low place. So we went out to look at Christmas lights, and we're in these big 15 passenger vans, and I finally, when we were going through there, I was laying in the first row and I fell asleep, and I slept for like 10 minutes, right? But it was the first time I could remember falling asleep in about 2.5 months. So at that point, I was like, all right, it's getting a little bit better, and it did. I started to get involved, and um, started to participate more, and I was trying to take things in, but my heart wasn't really into it. At the end of the day, there was still this whatever in the back of my mind that said, when we get out of here, we're going to get high.
Yeah.
Um,
Hanging on
and
tight.
yeah, it wouldn't let go,
Yeah.
and you know, the people at the facility were very good, and they helped us, and the doctors were great, but the people in our house that stayed with us overnight and watched us, they were awesome, told us stories, and it was good to hear someone that went through it. And one guy, he actually passed. His name was Jeff, but I always remember the story. He was telling me, like, listen, man, it gets better, it gets better. He said, this is how bad I was. And he told me he used to, on Sundays in New York, well, everywhere the liquor stores are closed on Sundays. So he said he would check himself into the emergency room at the hospital and for a cut or something. And he said he was a heavy alcoholic, and he said when the nurses would leave, he would take the rubbing alcohol and chug it.
Hmm.
And to get him through till he could get a beer at 12 o'clock. And that always stuck with me. And he was like, it's going to get better. Here I am. I didn't think I would, ever get out of that. I was drinking rubbing alcohol, and now I'm here helping people. So it's good when people talk to you and they tell you. Um, but honestly, it's, when you're like, well, what have you been through to, I know you're teaching how the brain works, and you're teaching the science, and what addiction is, but it's the people that went through it, that have been through it, that dealt with the struggle. Those are the people that really got through to me, like Petros. And even to this day now, he's such a human to me, right? He was never above me because he was over me. He made me feel like, hey, I have issues too, and I'm working through, and every day is a struggle for me. And sometimes I get pulled back and I have to step forward. And he was just, his words of wisdom were always super beneficial, and it was inspirational to see somebody so passionate towards, one, Jesus, and then two, his recovery. I mean, when we were there, he does now, right? I'm not there with him, but his passion towards recovery and helping people is just, it's unmatched. And you truly have to be an amazing person to care, about someone the way he did. And no matter how many times people he works with, fall or slip or backtrack or fail him, he doesn't give up on them. And I think it's a beautiful characteristic of him. And he's a great man for all the help that he does, to do that. And I'll go back to the house. Um, so I got through, I think, sometime a little after Christmas, my family came down and they picked me up, and went back to Pittsburgh. And it was just, everyone was trying to be so nice. It's awkward, right? Everyone wants to,
Is this for Christmas break, or is this
no,
like
no,
your
I'm sorry.
graduation and
I got out of the program.
you've completed the program and this is you?
Yep.
Rubber meets the road, getting
Yep.
into the real world. Okay. And back with
So
family, which a lot of us can be a big
back,
trigger. Was that, of
back with
course, that's who
family.
you
Yeah.
end up back with. Yep.
Yeah. So back with family and, everyone's being super nice but I'm just, you're just a shell of who you once were. And for me, I have been, living this not good life, whether it was using or selling or whatever it was. So, I don't know if I knew outside of that shell, I don't know if how much I knew what it was like to be normal. Right. After I had a great time in college, but after I got out, it was kind of just balls to the wall. And I don't know if once I was broken and I got back home, it was like, well, what does it feel like to be normal? Right.
Mhm.
What is a day like where you don't wake up and you're chasing, getting high?
It's such a
I
great
didn't
point
know.
too, because you can be like with like the blinders on,
Yeah.
right? Like going through the fantasy world where, um, you know, uh, I'm so great and I got this all together. And if some of that mask comes off, it sucks, right? Like I
Right.
don't want to see reality. I don't want to see that, I don't have all this going for me that I keep telling everybody I do. I'm doing that to hold my unstable insides up, and I go into rehab and everything's been stripped away. Yeah, what is it like to be a real person in real life? Do I even want that? Like, is that going to be miserable? I've been running from it for so long. What the heck is that going to look like? Yeah, I think that's
Right. Having.
very well put the way you said that. And before we go too far, let me just say too, like, thank you for the kind words for Petros.
Oh, of
Um,
course.
we cannot say enough about his heart, his service, for him, all the lives that he's touched, including mine too. So yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. But it was, I didn't, it's like, okay, you got bills now and responsibilities, and it's like you have all of that, and then you're putting that on top of learning how to be normal. And if one thing is twisted, how do you react? And if the wind blows, is that going to trigger you? And everyone's trying to be so nice to you, but at the same time, it's like, well, hey, you've been in the shower for 6 minutes, not 4 minutes and 30 seconds. What are you doing in there, right? And it's like, who are you on the phone with, or who So they're the worry and paranoia is intensified because as I was going through this, I kind of came up in college and before then in like the OC 80, air, and then it started to go into the Percocet 30s. And now as I was going through this, it was turning into the fentanyl air, right? And everybody was dying because this horrible, extremely potent powder was, so everybody was on high alert, right? Not to take away from previous before then, but it was just everything was amplified. Um, sorry, I'm getting a.
Well, since Taylor's taking a break, he should be back here in a minute. I'll go ahead and just let you guys know that we have some new swag coming out. I'm wearing some old swag here, but we've got new Gratitude Foundation shirts that are going to be coming out for this winter. What I want to let you know, I don't have a display up for them yet, although if you're watching this episode later on, you will notice that we've got on our YouTube channel the ability to purchase a shirt right there. No problem. I'm just giving us a little promo for our new swag coming up while you were coming back on. So what I do want to say, though, is that we've got an offer now for the new shirts. So if you sign up under our new drive for what we're calling our delayed gratitude drive, if you sign up for that, which is $10 a month, we will mail you a new Gratitude Foundation T-shirt, and I'm looking forward to putting a graphic up for that as soon as I can. But it should be on the YouTube site for purchase as well. Again, those are donations to the 501c3 that go to help our guys in our houses. Welcome back, Taylor. That was a quick commercial
Sorry
break.
about that. Yes, sir.
No, no problem. No problem. This is part of a live show. Go ahead. It's good to see you.
How are we doing on time? Am I steering too far off, or are we good?
No, this is great. Yeah, this is great.
So I was touching on, just the constant paranoia that my family had if I wasn't in their sights, right? So you
And I
got
think a
that
lot of
on.
people can relate to that. I think this is a great part of the story to share because so many people can relate to that. But the family meaning their best, right? Like they're totally right intentioned, not knowing how to, again, control the addict or help the addict or stop the addict. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's what it was, Martin. My mom and sister were great, and almost too great. They put up with a lot of shit from me, and I ended up in multiple hospitals and jails, and I was arrested numerous times, and they'd always answer the phone. They were always there and bail me out and fly to whatever hospital I was in, and it was just I put them through a lot, and you don't realize it when you're doing it, but it shows you the power that whatever your addiction has over you. Because if it was if it was, hey, step over your family to get that next high, I'm double dutching double dutching over them, right? There was nothing more important. So it's sad how, looking back, how we can become so heartless and careless to the people that we love, and it just shows you how powerful that whatever it is that we're chasing can be. And so it was a lot, because I went to college, I was living by myself, I was doing my own thing, and then I was back, living with family, no control. They didn't want me to go anywhere. I had to find a job. And all this time in the back of my head, I'm like, life sucks. I want to get high. Um, what do I do all day? Right? Like, I got all this time, and it's like, and then you see people that are like, well, you got to go and, you know, do yoga and go to the gym. And I'm just rolling my eyes. I'm like, yeah, let me roll. I could barely walk because I hadn't eaten in like 3 months. Like, go to the gym, I can't even walk up the steps, right? So my mom be like, go to the gym, go to the gym. It's like, you're still, again, I think I believe it's 12 months, if I'm not mistaken, but I think it's about 12 months for the serotonin to come back into your brain after going through, a massive withdrawal, and you're depleted. You see stuff that's funny, you don't laugh, you don't have emotion, you don't have feelings. So it was hard to exist, right? Because you're in a room full of people that are normal, and then you're sitting there like processing, how do you react to certain things? Are you reacting the right way? Are people looking at you? And the whole time you're thinking about, look, how can I get out of the house? What can I do? You're thinking about everything except really getting better. So I played the role, and my family started to believe I was getting better. And I think I ended up, sticking it out for a month, and I found a job, and I got the job, and started working, and then I convinced my mom that it would be better. It was probably about 30 minutes away, I think, and I convinced my mom that it would be better if I just stayed in this hotel across the street.
Hmm.
And I mean, when I say hotel,
You're
do I
probably
even
very
need to go
convincing
into it,
too.
right? Yeah, so it was
Yeah.
literally right across the street from where I'm working, and I'm making good money, and but I mean, I knew what I was doing when I asked that, right? I had no good intentions. It wasn't for anything other than to find a way to get high. And, this, so she was like, all right. And um, we went to work. And then one day, I found someone's old number and got an Uber and went there, and I got drugs. And then it turned into, well, I'm going to get enough for the next day, and then um, it turned into, I'm going to get some for this week, and then it just completely spiraled down. And where I had been doing well and at home, I was eating, just again, coming back to the functions of being normal. It went into getting high at the hotel, um, stealing the breakfast cereals to eat, from the breakfast bar. Um, and it just quickly spiraled out of control. I got pulled over. Um, I took a car and I got pulled over, and they let me go somehow, some way. Um, but at that point I knew like things were going to get bad again, and they got bad. Um,
Can you remember during that time thinking like, I don't really want to be on this roller coaster anymore, but just not really having a good way to stop?
it was like I wanted to stop, but there was, I didn't have like the momentum was just flowing so hard, I couldn't. There was no stopping. But I knew I wanted to, and I heard everything everyone was saying. I really did. And, a normal life where you go to the gym and you wake up on time and you have priorities and responsibilities. And it sounded great, but no matter how good it sounded,
Felt like it was a
it
million
didn't.
miles away.
Yeah, it was like there was no way I could stop to get it. And, I went through, I did the clinics and the Suboxone clinics, and I did all that. And like I said, it was good. It helped, but it was just a bridge to the next time I could get high, is all it was, right? But that could be because my intentions were to use it as that. I never went in saying like, all right, I want to do it right. Or if I did, I always found a reason, an excuse. I was I was weak, and I found a reason to say, well, this didn't go right, so let's get high, or this isn't going right, or I can do it. You justify, oh, I can do it just today or just the weekend, or I won't do it during the week. And then it's like, well, shit, I'm doing it during the week. I won't do it at work, and then it's like, okay, well, I'll only do it the last hour. And it never works. It just takes over too much. And so, um, I ended up, actually, um, I got clean for a little bit of time after that. I went down to Texas, um, originally, and I was still not living right. So I ended up getting enough time to where I convinced my mom I found a good job in Texas, and um, she said okay. And this had been probably more towards probably 6 months, so I think I started to build some trust back. And I was almost 30, Martin. So as much as my mom didn't want to let me go, I mean, her husband, who was he had been in my life for a while. I mean, he kind of told her, "What are we gonna do? Tell him no." So I saved up some money and went to Texas, and again got mixed up with the wrong people, and was in that life where drugs were being used. And I
So
just
you're telling me a job isn't enough to have her recovery? A job won't fix me?
it sure wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm
I
excited
don't
to
I
hear
don't
the
think there was
turnaround.
any.
I really am
Yeah,
excited
so
to hear what actually broke through to you.
I ended up having to get surgery. I had a heart valve that was clogged,
Oh
and I
shit.
needed open heart surgery. So it was a lot. It was I was in Texas and I actually went septic and they called my mom. They're like, he's gonna die, you know. And she was like, don't touch him. We're on the way, you know, because they wanted to put me in hospice, I think.
Mm.
And they put a DNR on me and everything. And they
Holy
said
shit.
if they hit me with the resuscitations, the infection would spread through my body and I would instantly die. So I was in Texas and um, I had come out of that. Um, you know, everything ended up. My sisters came down. They stayed with me in the hotel room. So I had that. I had the open heart surgery. Um, I just had a lot going on, and you know, it still wasn't enough. I went through all this, and I couldn't walk, and I was probably 140 pounds. I'm 260 now, so it was a massive,
Wow.
massive drop. But I still had all that going on, and you know, while I was going through the surgeries and in the hospital, I was medicated, right? So that that saved a lot of the pain and withdrawals, but I also wasn't I was out of it a lot of the time. So that that saved a lot of the pain of the withdrawals that I went through being in there. So I finally I got most of that cleared up, and this was all about the time that COVID was happening. So when I got out of the hospital, I couldn't walk. They had to wheelchair me through the airport. I flew back. I was in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where I got my surgery. I went back to Pittsburgh, and it was a lot, right? I was coming through the addiction, coming out of heart surgery, and I again, didn't know who I was, couldn't look at myself. I now had a massive staple line down the center of my center, not staple, stitch line down the center of my chest, and I was lost, you know. So probably a little under a year went by. I did start to go to the gym. You know, I started to have regular regular functions, and then I took a job back in Texas. Was doing was doing really well, and then I got arrested. Um, I was driving. I was extremely intoxicated. I hit a lady at a Wendy's, and then I got out and talked to her. I said, you know, I'll give you the money, and I left. And never would have gave her the money. I was just a low life at the time, and the police pulled me over. I actually hit a tree, right? So it hit the sensor, and it stopped the car. The car wouldn't go anymore because it said the sensor was off. So I was stuck there. Cops pulled me over. Um, Arrested me. I had stuff on me, stuff in the trunk, and took me to jail. Nobody, nobody from my family was here, so nobody could bail me out. I sat in the jail. Um, I went manic in the jail, which I didn't think was real until that happened. They finally called. It was like 3 days, and the head of the COs came in. He's like, "You haven't left your cell in 3 days," and I was like, "I don't even know what today is." Like I was so completely out of it. I hadn't eaten. Um, it was just it was rough. So my mom came and got me, and sure enough, as I was getting my property back, he's watching me, and I'm in there talking to one of the guys, like, you know, hey, what's your number? Because when I get out of here, you know, I want to get high. And as soon as I walk out, man, my mom's like, what are you talking to him for? You know, and she knew. So I went to the hotel, and we had to go get all my stuff out of the wrecked rental. And in my in my stuff was, you know, the old Coke cans that twisted off, and there were like little safes in them. Yeah, I had a bunch of stuff stashed in there that the police didn't find. So
I had a feeling that's what you were going to say. It
yeah,
was,
so in the hotel, I take that, and then we're getting on a flight from Texas to Pennsylvania, and so I think it's a great idea. Let me take all these Xanax, you know, and man, I don't even remember through the airport. I mean, I'm falling. I'm sitting on a plane, falling in the aisles, and I just probably took
Hmm.
150 pills through TSA. What an idiot. So my grandma picks us up, and I'm nodding off, smacking my head on the.
So the Coke bottle though that had the stuff in it, like one of those fake stash Cokes. Is that what you're?
Yep.
Did you actually, like, you were getting arrested and you were like, hold on, I want to take my drink with me? How did you get that to?
No. So when I
That was
wrecked
in
the
the car
car,
still. That wasn't in the.
right. So when I
Yeah.
wrecked my car, all my luggage and stuff was in the back of that car. So they impounded the car.
Got it.
The next morning or that night, we went and got all my stuff out of that car and left the car. So I
Got
got
it.
on my suitcase and everything. So I had stuff stashed away in there. And so I kept it in the suitcase, and I took it with me, and like an idiot, I took it on the plane, and I made it through. And I remember my mom smacking me because my grandma's there, and I'm passing out. And we get to her house, and I just go upstairs and I pass out. And I think I made it about 2 days. And I remember certain times just sitting, she's cooking and I'm sitting there watching TV and I'm just nodding off. And I'm trying to say, well, it's just, it's residual effect from whatever, but I
Yeah.
think she's catching on. And so I forget what happened. Oh, I I was in the bathroom and I fell with the bathroom. I had the first drawer open, so you couldn't open the door. And I had the water on, so the water was coming out of the drawer. So I fell. The sink had overflowed. Water was coming out of the drawer. My mom's freaking out, so she busts in, and I somehow I get to the bed. About an hour later, I'm woken up, and they take me downstairs, and there's this about 320-pound man. He says, "You're coming with me." And I was like, "All right." And so I get all my stuff, and I get into Tahoe, and he drives about 20 minutes, and he takes me to a treatment center. And I went. They put me in the detox, and I think I slept for about 2 days. So I went through all that, and then I did the 90-day program after that, and it was, like we said before, extremely nice. But I really started to buy in at this time, and
Well, at this point, I think, we say jails, institutions, and death.
that's it. I
That's not a
visited them all.
checklist. You know that, right? Like, that's not you don't have to go through all those.
I was confused.
Jails, institution, and near death, I guess, for you, but like, you don't have to go through all those. You
I
checked
thought
every.
I thought it was a bucket list, so I wanted
Right,
to make sure to hit everyone. So yeah, I literally I maxed that saying out, and
and I feel like I can laugh about it now because you lived. Not
yeah,
everybody does,
absolutely,
right? Like, it's
absolutely,
if we don't laugh, we cry. But
right.
a lot of people don't make it through all that, and it is pretty extreme.
Very extreme. And if we would need, probably my family in about an hour or a day long podcast to truly go over all of the issues and the troubles and the situations that I put myself and my family in. But these are what really stick out to me. And as I'm going through all this, it was just nothing but, shame and regret and embarrassment. And because I spent those 90 days after my detox, I really I got to start to start to come back and start to see things. And I got to see a lot of people and spend time with a lot of people. And I mean, it's sad. And so often you meet people and they say, "Hey, this is it. This is my last time." And then we see them again. We see them again so quickly. And I got to see how you really have to be mentally there, and make that commitment to yourself, because you can go through programs, you can sit in rooms, you can do steps, you can pray. I mean, you can do all that, but if your parents can be involved, whoever, but if internally you do not want to make that change, it will never happen because like you said, subconsciously, the devil, addiction, whatever it is knocking. And I had this one counselor at the last place I went to. He was the guy that picked me up, real big dude. He used to box, and he would wake us up in the morning and he'd say, "Is everyone ready?" And he'd say, "Because the devil is outside doing push-ups, waiting for your feet to hit that concrete because he's coming for you." And we just thought it was like he was a big badass dude. It was a cool thing he was saying, but I mean, it's the truth. As soon as you're in a safe bubble in there, right? And as soon as you step out into the real world, your phone turns back on, problems happen. You're not in this bubble where no one can reach you. You don't know what's going on in the outside world. Bad things happen, right? And in there, you're so isolated. It's like stuff can happen. People can baby you. They can keep you from knowing things, and then you have to learn as soon as you step out of the doors. Life's coming at you 1,000 miles an hour, right? And you have to gradually. I think people get out and they try to take on too much stuff at once, right? And it becomes so overwhelming. It's like a fire hose, right? And it's just too much to handle at once. So I I immediately got out and went I went with my family to we went on vacation, and it was a good time. I started to laugh. And I was extremely skinny, and so I was very uncomfortable being in my own skin. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed, regretful of the people I hurt, the decisions I made. And Martin, I never wanted to talk about it. I never wanted anyone to ask me questions. I didn't want to share stories. I wanted to hide from it, hide and move on, but I couldn't because it played such a major role in my life. Like it was just too much to neglect and not talk about. So everything started to go back into place. I spent a lot of time with my sister. She owns a business. I worked with her. I just started to do the normal everyday things. I was going to the gym. That became positive. But I couldn't get away from it. So I think if I remember correctly, I told my mom I was going to the casino because Pittsburgh just got a new casino. And I had I also so it was back to back. I had my little sister drive me somewhere. I said we were going to look at some mural, and I had this guy meet me down the street. And then I told my mom I was going to the casino, and that turned into like I didn't get there for like an hour and 45 minutes. And my mom she was fed up with me. She was done. So she called the place that I had came from, and I had put her through a lot. Like she was broke. She was uh she was done. And I think it was good that I think this happened because, she was just forever gonna love me, and I would have just kept going and I would have killed myself. So she sent me off. Or no, I left. I'm sorry. Let me take it back real quick. I did end up at one point. I was at Passages in California. I'm not sure if you've heard of that rehab. Very nice rehab. I did 30 days.
Is that the
And then
famous one where?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. From there, I flew to Petros, and I went to his house, and it wasn't good because again, I was withdrawing. I stayed in the room. I didn't want to participate. And in that point of recovery, you're getting a job. The other guys had cars. They're cooking dinner. Going to the grocery store. I wasn't ready for that level of treatment. So
At some point too, so Do you feel like in a way like maybe this is for everybody else and not for me too? Like
Yeah,
after constantly being offered a chance and a place to recover, and you sort of being half in and half out, and then relapsing it and just being reassured and reassured, like in a way like the addiction is winning the battles, right? Like it's showing
definitely.
you how powerful it is. And I think part of the pattern recognition that the human mind is great at can also be detrimental when we're like, now we're finding evidence to convince ourselves of why I can never recover. And for me, like what I see is like, if somebody believes that, it's true. Like if you
Hmm.
really believe you can never recover, or that other people can, but it's not for you, that becomes true. And what a scary
Right.
place to be. Were you feeling some of that at that point?
Definitely was. I was convinced, and no matter what, there was just nothing I could do that I was going to get right. I kind of written it off that this was what I was going to do, because when I left Passages, I immediately I found a guy in there that got out before me, and I took an Uber directly to his house. And within, and I played the whole. I made everybody think, oh, he's good, he's doing better. And immediately, I was back on it, and then I did that, and I I ended up staying in downtown Los Angeles for a week. I mean, it was just I would go out, get stuff, go to the hotel room, and it was crazy, because at one point I was just like, I got some money, I can just stay here, and just never go back. I'll figure it out. But I couldn't have figured that out. I was an idiot. So I flew. Petros had the guys pick me up at the airport, and I wasn't I wasn't ready. The house believed I was still getting high, which honestly I was not. I didn't get anything over there with me. I was just in such a bad state. I didn't want to get out of bed. Um, so I ended up, after maybe a week, I was just going through horrible pains, and I felt like shit. I Ubered to Pennsylvania. I was like $300, and man, it was just everybody had enough of me. Everyone was sick of me. So I was with my sister and with my mom and my dad, who he kind of had just written me off. Everyone was fed up. So my mom found something in my sock, or I forget exactly what happened, but I ended up just saying, Mom, I'm going with a buddy in North Carolina, and that he was like a good friend, and he wasn't into anything, and so I ended up going with him, and I took a suitcase, and that was it. That's all I had, and I stayed in the second bedroom, and after I got to the point where I could comfortably walk and move around, I started walking to the gym, and he was a great friend. He helped me, and just he knew I was going through it, and he just let me go. If I didn't open my door, he didn't mess with me, and um, I could go out on the couch and laugh, and then just go back into the room, and I worked my way up, and then finally, me and him, we ended up moving to Texas. I went back to my old company, and my one of my bosses, he looked at me, and he's like, you know, you need to find a flagpole, something to hang on to when things get rough, something that's stuck in the ground that isn't going to blow when everything else is going. And he said, you're not ready. And I was like, I'm ready, and he let me come back, and I came back, and I thought about that constantly. Him saying that, and that's resonated with me, you know, deeply. And I started working again, and I developed a purpose, right? And in a lot of parts, I was in a new area, so I didn't know people, which was a huge help.
It's an extra barrier. It's an
Yeah,
extra hurdle that you have to jump through. It's not that you couldn't jump through it. It's just you have more time to think before you react. Yeah.
right. But still, I was confidence was low. Um, I was embarrassed. It was It was just I didn't feel good about anything, but I knew I had to do something, and I worked for about a year, and then I met the mother of my son, and we have a 2-year-old. He just turned 2, um, a little boy, and he's
Congratulations.
thanks. And those they've changed my life. So I got baptized last year, and my faith and relationship with God has truly grown. I used to sit and think like, man, how can I go a day without getting high? Now the now everything's changed. It's like, how could I get high? How could I go a day and get high? Because you're not going to be able to be there for the people that need you. So part of part of the recovery was people depending on me, and I got someone looking up to me.
It's a beautiful purpose to have.
But it took a long time, and you know if I wouldn't have gone through all that, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. So sorry, Martin.
No, it's beautiful.
So in in Jeremiah, it talks about God already knows the plans that he has for us. So I got to think, if I wouldn't have gone through all that, I wouldn't have my son, and his mom today. If I hadn't been put in all those situations, if I hadn't met Petros, if I hadn't had my family, we may not, we might not be having this conversation. And then, so I think, if someone came to me and they said, "Hey, you're gonna go through 8-10 years of hell. You're gonna go through 8 to 10 years of hell, but at the end, you're gonna have a healthy son, woman who loves you, a nice house, good career, you know, that's God's plan for you." Everyone, including myself, would say, "Well, no, I don't want to go through those 10 years. I'm gonna turn around now, you know." Um, but I believe I went through and endured all that, and couldn't be happier with where I am today.
And listen, it's getting those things is wonderful, but you're also making the choice on a daily basis to receive that too,
Yeah,
to not reject it, because there are plenty of addicts who also have the opportunity or get those things into their life and they still choose to reject it. So it's not obvious, right? The fact that you're willing to show up and stay and receive the love that you're getting, it really is a choice. It's the same choice as recovery. Making the other choice, rejecting it and going back to using, is still an option. So God bless you for actually being willing to receive. And I think
yeah.
it's hard to explain for somebody who maybe hasn't been through the level of trauma that you've been through, how hard that is, to stay and receive love.
It's it it's a dark, dark, lonely world, but um, there's a light at the end. We gotta find it, and people putting yourself around the right people, um, in the right situations, it makes makes it a lot easier. And I've failed and failed and failed again, to the point where I just felt like I wrote myself off, and just let everybody down. And um, I just the embarrassment I had, and everything I went through, um, it all washed out, and to where I never would have said, told anybody, hey, I used to get high. But now, like, I'm so proud to say, that used to be me, but it's not anymore. What have you done in 10 years? Because this is all I've done, and every day as I get better, it shows me how bad I truly was. It shows me how weak I was, the bad decisions that I made. And I just want to continue to separate myself from the way that I used to be. But also, if there's people that need help, I want them to know that it's gonna be okay. And I was at the bottom of the bottom, for a time. I was homeless. I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't have clothes. When me and her first moved, I moved with garbage bags. you know. But it gets better, and it's just now going through that, the pain that it went through, it just, it made me so much better today. And I'm just so grateful that I was able to make it out. And I made it out because other people cared, and people like Petros didn't give up on me. And just the little things that they've done, have allowed me to do so much with my life. And if all of us can just help, one person, that can spiral into such a such a dramatic movement, to turn this thing in the other direction.
Absolutely. It's really, to me, it's a natural progression of life, is that if we can become fully self-supported, if we can get stabilized enough with the help of others, the natural next thing to do is start helping others, right? In a life of service, there's nothing more fulfilling than a life of service. And that can take all kinds of different forms. So check this out. So the other part of this show is we talk about using gratitude as a tool for happiness. So I'd like to hear if there's, if there's things that you do for fun, right? We can look at those as a tool for gratitude, your family, or even if you have a practice that you do on a regular basis. Would love to hear how you use gratitude as a tool.
Um, so every morning I start my day at 4:44. I wake up, and I go to the gym. I do breath work in the morning. Um, and I truly, and I really started taking this into consideration about 6 months ago, that gratitude is like the highest form of energy that we can give off. And the more grateful we are um for things, the better our life will be.
Man after my
And
own heart. Ah,
yeah,
this is
and
why Petrus wanted me to talk with you. I see now. Yeah.
and I really have started looking at situations, even my recovery, like, man, instead of saying, God, why did I have to go through these 8 years? It's not that. It's, God, thank you for putting me through these 8 years so that I can have another, 40, 50 to be an amazing man for my son. That's taking that outlook of it, instead of the why me, right? It's finding a way to find gratitude in the situation. I truly believe that if you change that part of your mindset, it makes a massive difference just in your everyday life. So the big thing for me is getting up in the morning and being grateful is the start of my day. If I miss a workout or just my little bit of time that I have in the morning, it throws my whole day off. So I get up and I do my breath work. I get the day started, and then I go to the gym. And on my way to the gym, I always do my prayer. And I use that time not necessarily to ask God for anything, but to thank God, for not giving up on me, the 2,900 chances he's given me, uh, for another day, for bringing the sun up. I mean, I go through the whole list, and I use that as a time to give thanks back to him. And I'm thankful for just the day itself. And I go to the gym every day, and then I my career is super important to me. So I spend a lot of time. I run a car dealership, so I spend a lot of time at work, and have been having a lot of success at work recently. It's crazy. I've asked for things that I've asked for God to do, and just doors He's opened for me. It's just amazing. But I really am working with my team on not being good employees, but being good men. Doing the right thing and inside and outside of work, and it's really giving back to us. Little things, just telling them, hey, thanks for being here, thanks for showing up, thank you for working here. Letting them know that you're appreciative of them means a lot to them. Setting myself apart from different bosses. I don't want to be a boss. I want to be a leader. They're all young kids. I want to be an example for them. Um, so letting them know I'm grateful that every day they get up and choose to come here, with us. And even at the end of a day, I always try to send a text and just say, hey guys, group text, great job today. I'm super grateful for you. And I do that with my managers as well, because the idea, or if you show someone that you're grateful or you're thankful of them, I mean, sometimes that can mean more than an act or a gift card, or whatever you want to use. But someone that truly feels you're appreciative for them showing up for you every day, um, I think that means a lot to people. And I think we don't spend enough time doing that, and I think that's where we get a lot of our issues from. And it's something that I need to do better with the close people around me. Just let them know, hey, thankful thankful for you every day. But I truly believe if that's your mindset, you reap better rewards back from people, better rewards back from the world, uh, because you're doing the right thing, and you're letting people know you're grateful that what they're doing matters to you. So that's important to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So before we close, I guess, the other thing I like to ask is, if you can reach somebody who is, say, maybe in the same cycles of relapse currently that you used to be in, if you could say something to those people, is there anything that you would want to say? And maybe that's, about, getting into a treatment center, or or communal living of some kind, or, being able, because, even that just one-on-one communal space that you had with that other friend of yours
Yep,
made
made
the
a big
difference.
difference.
It was different than you being alone, so but yeah, if there's anything that you could share with somebody who might be in a position like that, what would you say to them?
So I think I would say, the communal living is huge for rehabilitation. I think a lot of people are standoffish on the word rehab. It carries a bad, it carries a bad shadow behind it. But you have to consider it as a rehabilitation for yourself, for your soul, for your body, for your mind. And if you do not do that first, not out of the 12 steps, but if you don't take that first step in rehabilitating yourself as a human being, then whatever other steps you do after that are they don't matter. They're not going to be worth anything if you don't buy back into yourself, getting healthy, getting back on track, believing in yourself. And if you truly don't want to do that, you're going to just go through the motions, and you're going to do 6 months, and you're going to wind back up. So what, if I could say anything, is to get into somewhere where there's people that care. Um, don't rush it. So many times we rush it because we got to get back to work, or our family needs us. The job's going to be there. Your family needs you alive. That's the most important thing. So take your time. Don't worry about anything that's going on the outside. Get into a program, work your steps, find that flagpole, find something to hang on to, find a reason to get up and keep going. And just know it's going to get better, right? But there's no magic potion, or there's nothing that's someone can say that it's just going to happen overnight. For me, it was a long, painful, drawn out process. I mean, it was hell, but I can tell you it gets better, and the end is so much brighter than what it was. And when you feel like there's nothing left, there's a reason. Somebody loves you, somebody cares. You can make it through it. You got to find that reason.
Beautiful message. Beautiful message. Something I thought about earlier too in your message, when you were saying how you had built your mindset up and to try when you were in treatment, and it was like you were trying to understand your situation, and it was so painful. And it made me think of that saying, it's easier to fool a man than to convince a man he's been fooled. Right. And there's like this middle ground between your addiction and your recovery, where part of that is you've been fooled, right? Addiction is telling you that you're always going to be stuck, that there is no more life to live, that there's nothing else. And it's almost harder to get past that and to realize you've been tricked and that it is a lie.
Right.
There is life after it. And I guess, would you ever have guessed that that there could be anything like this for you on the other side? Would you ever have guessed?
I didn't think that there would ever be a time where I wouldn't be, getting high, where I wouldn't be living fast and just not living healthy. I thought that was it for me. And it was crazy how strong it is, because you first start to think it, and then you truly accept it, and you're like, this is my life. I'm either going to die or I'm going to live getting high, and it's thinking back when you have a clear head. It's just like, wow, that's scary that it can be that powerful to get you to convince. Like, we have so much, our mind is so strong, and we have so much opportunity. We have so much available to us. We have the power to do such great things on earth. It's amazing how something like addiction can bring us to the point where we just give up. And that is the hardest part. It's getting through to where you don't feel like that anymore. Getting through to where you feel some value to yourself, and we put a lot of focus on what happens while we're using. We put a lot of focus on what happens while we're coming off of the drug. We put a lot of focus on, that part. But what we don't put a lot of focus on is like the true trauma, the true issues with our serotonin, the true mental issues, our confidence, our ability to speak. We don't put a lot of emphasis on that. So it's like, get high, withdrawal, back to life. It's not like that. There's a year, 2 year gap. I mean, that happens after you've decided to close the book, that we have to master, getting through that part, because you have to get your mind right. You have to get your brain right. I mean, you're going to have dreams, a year into it, knock, knock, let's get high. And you have to be able to get through those And once you do, I mean, you mentally feel, great that when those feelings come knocking, you say, hey, no, but it's not until you internally want to do that you'll be able to tell those thoughts to go away. And I do want to say, Martin, once you really start buying in and believing in it, and you know, um, focusing on it. I mean, if someone walked up right now and was like, "Hey, you want to get high?" I'd punch him. Like I'm not buying into it at all. But until I believed in that, someone could walk up at any time, and I would have justified a reason. Yeah, let's get high. So it has to be. You have to want it more than anyone else. And I love that saying. People say, we want you to do well, but we can't want it more than you. And for my 8 to 10 year run, my parents, my sisters, Petro, everybody wanted it for me more than I did. And as great a support as they were, until I wanted it bad, worse than they did, nothing was going to change. And when I did, it was amazing the things that happened.
Well, I'm grateful to have gotten to spend this time with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And I did look it up too, just to reference the serotonin and dopamine levels that you mentioned. They say that some of the receptors can come back in as few as a few weeks.
Okay.
Most will take years, and some serotonin will is irreparable. And I can tell you, for me, the first 3 years, I just kept coming out of the fog. Right. And I thought I had some kind of like stability, but I would still I had trouble forming sentences. And my sponsor always said, the weller I get, the sicker I was.
Yep.
Right. So even
That's
after
amazing.
years, I still, much better.
There's a program I use at work, and I was always real quick on it. Right. It's like kind of like an old DOS theme. So it's, you got to use the tab and the numbers, and I was always super fast. And when I finally got done, I was living across the street at the hotel, and I went to work on the first day and got to the keyboard, and it was just like I was like punching it with my fingers. I was like, what is going on? And it's true. You hit it. It's a fog. It truly is a fog. It takes some time to come out of there.
It just takes time. Yep. All right. So with that, I appreciate you being here on Gratitude Speaks. If anybody is interested, you can check us out at gratitudespeaks.org or anywhere podcasts are found. If you're listening this far, please take the time to share with a friend or family member, or maybe somebody that is struggling. You can find our information at GratitudeFoundation.com as well. And coming up, our next thing coming up is if you haven't seen, by the way, our pictures on our site from Scarioke, our karaoke Halloween event, it was phenomenal. And coming up soon, though, we have our community day on November 17th. I think I'm going to record that, so everybody should be able to find that if they haven't been able to go. We're looking for more volunteer support, more people to actually join in on a couple of different groups to help us with social media, planning events. We want an impact group that will actually come in and join us just for our events. That impact group, just by being with our guys when we're doing a hike or a camp or go-karting or one of our crazy events, it'd be great. Or even thrifty golfers, which I just pulled out an old picture of thrifty golfers that I want to hang up at Tradition House. But with that, Taylor, thank you so much for being here with us. Everybody, we'll see you on the next episode. Let's make it a great day on purpose. I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Martin.